A very warm welcome to all of you. This is Business Today, and today is 29th of March 2017. And in just 2 days, we are ready to wrap up the first quarter for this year. And for most of the organizations in the corporate sector, it's going to be the end of another financial year. So this is a crucial time period of the year to assess the performance of the corporate sector, which has a significant impact on the country's economy. So with all those activities happening around, we are ready to start off our show with Business Personalities segment. Right, the business personality who's joining us today represents a reputed organization in Sri Lanka that is involved in a whole heap of activities, whole heap of sectors in the business world. So let's welcome our guest with the introduction.
Imal Fonseka is the Group CEO of Fairway Holdings. He was the CEO of Ceylon Biscuits Limited, the largest Sri Lankan FCCG company. Hitherto he was the Managing Director of Haymas Manufacturing Sri Lanka and Haymas Consumer Brands Bangladesh. Imal has extensive experience in advertising, brand management, sales management and general management, working with multinationals such as JWT, Unilever, GlaxoSmithKline, Coca-Cola and Chevron. He also worked in diverse cultures, being posted overseas to manage brands and sales teams in the Middle East, in Southeast Asia and in the subcontinent. He was appointed to the boards of the Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation and Sri Lanka Investment Holdings by the Ministry of Finance, and also served in the boards of Chevron Lubricants Lanka plc and Eureka Technology Partners. He plays an active role within the marketing fraternity as the past president of the International Advertising Association, Sri Lanka Chapter 2007 to 2008. Founder Chairman of the Sri Lanka Advertising Awards 2006. Chairman of the Sri Lanka Brand Excellence Jury 2007. Chairman of the EFIS Sri Lanka Jury 2009-2012. And Chairman of the Trustees of the Sri Lanka Advertising Awards 2010. He was also appointed to the jury of the Asia Pacific EFI Awards 2016-2017 and was subsequently invited as a juror for the Global EFIS Program 2016 and the Middle East Africa EFIS Program 2016. He is a graduate of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, UK, and a Certified Management Accountant of Australia. He's had his postgraduate education at the Indian School of Business and executive education at the Kellogg School of Management, Northwestern University, University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School.
Yes, and that is Mr. Imal Fonseka, Group Chief Executive Officer of Fairway Holdings. A very warm welcome to you and a very good evening.
Good evening, Sangha. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Right, so let's start the discussion by talking about Fairway Holdings, because when you mention the name Fairway Holdings, what comes to your mind first are the luxury apartments.
Of course.
So, but actually speaking, you have many other businesses in your portfolio. So let's start the conversation by talking about what's under the umbrella of Fairway Holdings.
I mean, our group obviously started operations with vertical living. That's the whole apartment business. And that's indeed where our legacy is, and that's indeed where the whole heritage, the whole reputation of the organization is built on. But of course, subsequently with our success in vertical living spaces, we have expanded to diverse areas such as aviation, waste to energy, leisure, and a plethora of others, which I think we will discuss as we go on. So fundamentally, we are now a truly diversified Sri Lankan conglomerate.
All right. So looking at your profile, something very interesting we see in your profile is that you have covered a whole heap of sectors in your corporate life, starting from confectioneries to personal care to lubricant sector to real estate sector. and they're all different to one another. Usually, people climb up the ladder of their success through one industry or a similar industry. But in your case, it's very, very different. Why did you take such moves in your corporate career?
I think to start with, the fundamental thing is I'm a marketer, and marketers believe in differentiation. So I suppose that was a precursor to the whole thinking. Yes, I did start my life in advertising and very much got into brand management locally. Then fundamentally what drove me was the need to differentiate myself among my other colleagues in the marketing fraternity. So that's what got me to get out of Sri Lanka and get experience in terms of managing brands in other countries, managing sales teams and managing brand teams in other countries, which was a unique experience in itself. I take pride even today that I was, for example, the first person to launch Panadol or introduce Panadol to Vietnam. Because Panadol has been such a big brand here. It's the first brand I handled in this country too. So that being so basically what happens is, as you do that, what you do is you collect a set of competencies. And competencies in terms of, for example, by moving out of Sri Lanka and working on brands, competencies in terms of trying to, your brand knowledge of the customer has to move beyond your intuition. You need to be more analytical, you need to be more data dependent. So those are expertise you gain by moving to alien environments. Also working particularly with sales teams. When I was in the Middle East, there were 26 nationalities in our sales team. So when you work with different nationalities, you again build different competencies, which I think have strengthened my management capabilities today as a general manager. So I mean that's the whole thing. So as I said, my belief therefore is you generally don't build. Generally, I don't recommend anybody to build expertise in a particular category, but understand.
But that's what's happening mostly in
unfortunately,
the
yes.
corporate
Unfortunately,
world.
yes. And then you tend to be labeled as a beverage person or a lubricant person
or a banker.
Banker, exactly. And I mean, see, the thing is again, when it's very similar to how people look at companies. When people look at corporates and say you're in so many spaces, I actually go back to them and say, listen, actually you're a collective of competencies. What an organization has is a set of competencies. It's not the fact that you're in different businesses. So in a similar way, I think as a person, it is the collection of competencies that is going to help you as you progress in life.
Right, fantastic. And now let's move on to the core area of your organization, that is the real estate market.
Yes.
We see so many activities happening in the industry, especially with huge apartment complexes coming in. Do we have an adequate demand in the market, or are we looking at foreign investors to come and purchase them? How is the market right now?
I think the simple fact is urbanization is going to happen. We are between 20 to 30% urbanized. 40% urbanization in the next 10 to 15 years is going to happen. And our cities are not ready, or our country is too small. The 65,000 square kilometers in our city areas have no chance in accommodating people in horizontal living. So vertical living is the solution. So I believe that the demand will be there. Future demand is within the local community. That demand is going to exist and will continue. However, having said that, I must also state at this point that with plethora of people, I always call this the Aapakade syndrome, where just because I have a successful Aapakade doesn't mean you and everyone else will have a successful Aapakade. So everyone believes that they can get into apartments and make money. I think that's the wrong thing to do. So one of the issues is this: for most Sri Lankans, this is the first time they are buying an apartment. They are moving from a home or a house to an apartment. Whilst in countries like Singapore and Hong Kong, I am moving from my mother's apartment to my apartment. So I know what apartment living is like. So most Sri Lankan customers, when they go and purchase their apartment, don't ask the right questions. And to me, that is a really, really sad state. Because of that, I believe that a lot of them are taking the wrong decision and will not therefore get into a sustainable living situation. So there are some general things that I would like to talk about if there's time. Fundamentally, a couple of things I would like to, I think as a homeowner, when you're considering buying an apartment, one of the first things is you need to figure out who the developer is.
I was just going to get there to
Yeah, sorry, go.
To give some tips as to when a person wants to buy an apartment, what are the areas that they need to look into?
I think that's a great social service, I think, for the people. So fundamentally, you must first figure out who the developer is. You have to make sure that that's not a developer who's going to run away with your money, right? So two things: will the developer run away with your money, or will the developer get this project done and done with? And once it's done, will that complex be sustainable? So generally, the best way to look at it is try and figure out, has this developer been in business for a long time? Are there projects this developer has completed? Have people been living in that developer's complexes for more than 5 to 6 years? I think those are critical questions. To me, the most critical question I will ask is, has anybody been living in your apartments for more than 5 to 6 years? If so, show me. That's something I will look at. So that's one. Then another part that again a lot of people tend to get misled is this whole concept of management fees. There are statements, people build these apartments with 6, 9, 12 apartments in a block and claim that it can be managed with 10 to 15 rupees. Economies of scale do not do that. That's why more evolved, more enlightened developers always build at least 100 apartments in a compound, so that fees can be allocated appropriately, it will be affordable. So that is another danger where people just buy without. So I tell them, ask the right questions. What are the cost of management? Security, water, energy, maintenance. Divide that by the number of apartments and figure out. You should be able to do your arithmetic, right? Simple things like that. And again, obvious stuff I see. I go into apartments. You're not allowed to carry your gas cylinder in the lift, right? But I see a lot of apartments I've just visited that gas is not provided on tap. That's so two issues. One is that's against the law, and second, it's a huge risk. So like that, I think there are I can speak for the next hour about the questions you need to ask, but at least these three questions, I think if you ask, some element of the risk will be mitigated.
Right. Thank you very much for those tips. And sustainability and green environments, they are buzzwords these days when you talk about construction sector. So how does your organization support a greener environment through construction projects?
See, it's all about the space. It's all about minimizing the space that we will occupy and minimizing our footprint on Earth. So hence, as I said, that's why versus horizontal living, we are promoting vertical living. And even within vertical living, once we do our properties, there are some things that we invest in consciously, which have a green, which is part of our whole DNA, which is about being sensitive to the environment. For example, if you look at all our glass windows, we use double glazed UV windows, which ensure that the heat that's brought into the apartment is less. What that does is it reduces the electricity consumption and therefore use less electricity. On the other hand, even the material we use, for example, we use UPVC frames. The reason we use UPVC versus aluminium is whilst UPVC is easy to maintain, etc., it consumes less energy at the time of conversion from material to. So, we look back and try to minimize the footprint there. And another good example is the doors. We spend twice the amount that anybody else spends on doors that we put in our homes, simply because we focus on engineered timber doors. The difference between engineered timber doors, the price difference is almost double than a normal solid wooden door. Of course, engineered timber is not forest timber. It's grown timber, so that start with. Second thing is also because it's engineered, it does not succumb to various weather changes which happen, and therefore doors getting warped, etc. So that's something that we. That's a way.
Yeah. Does it affect the initial purchasing price?
It does not. It does not. The fairway. So that's a guarantee. A fairway proportion or the fairway lifestyle comes with these concerns. So that's why for example, we say we have the largest sales force in the country, and the largest sales force actually are not our employees but our homeowners. So almost 86% of our homes are purchased because they have been recommended by existing homeowner.
Right. So we will now move on to a related topic with the green environment, that is the social issue we have with the garbage collection and recycling, which has been there for so many number of years. And recently the corporate sector got involved to support the government with solutions, and your company came up with an award-winning solution for this social issue.
Yes.
Can you talk about the proposal and what was the award you received?
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, I think all of us are aware of the big issue of garbages, and this being able to, as an organization, being able to provide a solution, at least to Western Province garbage, has been a pleasure. So basically, 3 companies have been awarded to manage the waste within the Western Province. We are being one of them. I'm not sure, both other companies are fundamentally focusing on incineration, but that is actually more cost effective, that has less capex involvement, your operating costs are cheaper, etc. But we are a Sri Lankan company, we don't necessarily look at only the P&L. So we have taken a slightly more expensive route, our capex is more higher, which is where we actually separate the bio and non-bio fertilizer at source. And with that separation, what we try to do is we do create bioenergy, biogas through which we generate electricity, but more fundamentally important, we create both liquid and solid fertilizer. So which we are using Danish technology, we have seen it in action. We have taken our technical committees over there, shown it to them. So for example, all this fertilizer can be put back into the soil and giving natural nutrition versus chemical nutrition. So that is a big difference. Plus, of course, the rest of it will be incinerated and will be generating electricity. So whilst we are keeping the whole environment green and helping this whole thing, this is one thing as an organization, all of us, we have a very young organization. We are the reason the organization average age is lower. Is high. Okay. Everyone is a significantly lower. But I mean, this is one thing we take pride in saying, yes, it is a business that is going to make money, but more important, it will solve a great social purpose, social issue, and something that I can look at my son in the face and say, you know, this I did for you.
Right. So have you already implemented it, or are you hoping to implement it very soon?
We have just won the project. We have just won the project. It will take about 2 years to commission. It's a huge investment. We need to bring the equipment now. It's all done in Germany and Denmark. So we need to bring it down, install it, commission it, etc. So it's 2 years from now, but at least from there onwards, it'll be done.
Right. So Fairway Holdings is also into leisure. And when you talk about a holiday, usually a typical holiday for a Sri Lankan is a day out at a hotel, buffet, and the beach and the pool around you. But you and your company came up with a total different concept for Sri Lankan leisure industry. Can you talk about this concept?
Again, see, I mean, as what's unique in our DNA is always trying to do something different. So going through a different path. See, one of the whole insights we had is, you know, we have stressful times, we spend very little time with our families and kids, etc. Then you go on holiday. Kids are on their phones or watching cable TV.
It's mostly the case with adults as well.
Exactly. Adults are the husband and wife on their laptops. Then it's buffet after buffet after buffet. The only thing you have to say when you come back after holidays, maybe 2 kilos more, right? Nothing else. So we looked at disconnecting to connect. And that's why we brought in this whole proposition of Go Outdoors. Go Outdoors is where we bring caravans. Caravans where we have 17 caravan parks all over the country, located in places where you can't build hotels, where you can't do any construction. That's unique. Second thing is it gives you an absolute private environment where you and your family can go park your caravan or your motorhome, stay there, cook overnight, cook together, and it's just you and the environment. And what we have found, I mean, I did it a couple of times myself too, and until I went, I didn't really realize it, that the way you connect with your family, when you're there all by yourself, there's nobody else, and you're doing the little things, you're washing dishes.
Have you picked areas with no Wi-Fi?
Not necessarily. I mean, you don't actually find such areas. So Wi-Fi connectivity is there. For example, I mean, also logistically, we need Google Maps to point out where the site is. So that's still there, but there's no TV. But somehow, I mean, I saw this with my kids, and I've observed some other kids and their other families too. The kids tend to be engaged because there's so many things to do. You know, the caravans there, the chairs outside, they're doing a barbecue, you know, so the whole family is really engaged, and I really feel, I mean, that's a holiday. Then you come back to work, your kids are fresh to get back to school, you're ready to get on work, and you know, that's the type of space. So it's something that we have pioneered, and we have seen a lot of traction in Sri Lanka, but we are also seeing a lot of interest from overseas tourists right now. So through a lot of booking engines, we are getting a lot of bookings. And again, so this is what we want to do, create new spaces. Everyone's building hotels. We just want to do another hotel. So create another space and another experience for tourists in this country.
Okay, so how has been the response from the tourists for this initiative?
Very, very positive. We've got huge interest and some partnerships are just being developed and planned, sorted out. So as that goes, I think we can see humongous growth in this area. But I hope it won't be another Appagadi syndrome and everyone won't try to have caravan now.
Okay, so we spoke about travel, we spoke about renewable energy and property market, and your company, your organization is also involved in aviation sector. This is, you stepped into this business at a time when private domestic aviation was hardly heard of.
Yes.
So how is the market there and how is it progressing?
Again, it's the thinking about, what do we do in this country? I mean, we found out that there's a recent Boeing and Airbus study which said they need 620,000 pilots by 2035 globally. And of that, some 270,000 pilots were required in the Asian region. So when that happens, and then we look at our situation as a country and we see we have so many youth who are educated and who are looking for good opportunities. And this is an amazing opportunity for them to leverage. Unfortunately, a lot of them cannot leverage this because to become a pilot, you have to get out of this country, and that's maybe a 65,000 pound course cost, plus the cost of
It's not
travel.
available in Sri Lanka?
In Sri Lanka also it's available, but nobody used to have fleets, so you don't know how long you will take. There were lots of issues. So what we've done is we've got a fleet of 5 training aircrafts, because you need a plethora of aircrafts of different types, because you need different type ratings. So, and we formulated a whole program that goes beyond the simple requirements of a PPL or a commercial pilot's license, which is a lot of value-added services which will prepare a person to do 2 things: face the interview and have a differentiated CV at a time of interview when you're going to different airlines. And testament to our success is we advertised on a Sunday, and within I think 6 days our whole course was filled. So that just shows the amount of interest that's there. So we're just starting off, but I don't think 5 aircrafts and this number 1 batch or 3 batches is what we're going to do. So as the opportunity pursues, we'll make it a big one, and see, our whole objective is to make Sri Lanka actually a center for aviation education for the region, for couple of reasons. One is Sri Lanka has, you can fly 365 days of the year. We don't have winters. Right? Yeah. That's one. Number 2 is our skies are less crowded. Right, so basically there's no restriction in times you can fly. Third thing is that our aviation license is widely recognized across the world. So using that, we want to do 2 things. One is give children in this country an opportunity to become pilots if they desire, because that is an employment opportunity. Also make Sri Lanka a center for aviation education.
That's great. So you are managing a diversified company. So when you are a group CEO for a diversified company, you have to ensure that all sectors perform well, because you need to ensure your profitability and sustainability through all sectors performing well. So how do you handle this situation, especially in such a volatile business environment? I
think it's important as a group CEO to basically first sort your information and analytics out. I fundamentally manage through a dashboard process. So through a dashboard, I manage across the group, so across the diverse companies, and see their performance as they go on. And then when you're managing a portfolio, you have to manage it like a portfolio. You need to figure out which businesses you want to continue being in, which business you need to exit. So those are hard calls you need to take, and those are some of the things that you have to do fundamentally for managing a diversified portfolio. Right. I'm going to ask you a different question now. As you have started your career as a marketer, can you give some advice to the young generation when they select as to how they should select a career path, as we want to inspire our audience through your success, sharing your success story? Okay, the first thing is, particularly, I'll focus on marketing to start with. So I would say that if you want a job, don't get into marketing. Okay. And I say this with a real reason. People who are looking for jobs, there are many other jobs you can do. There are lots of 8 to 5 stuff you can do, which have no issues at all. If you are getting into marketing, you must have a genuine passion. You must have a genuine passion to learn about people, watch people, observe people, understand people. Because marketing is fundamentally about building a brand and the brand's relationship with its target consumers. So it's a 24-hour, 7-day job. which means it's not, that doesn't mean that you have to be in office 24/7, but you have to be aware of what is happening. You must understand your consumers, see what they're watching, know what they're wearing, know what they like, what they dislike, watch how other brands operate. And so therefore it must come naturally. When I'm in the supermarket, I observe other customers buying naturally.
It has to be within you.
It has to be within you. So somebody who's just interested in an 8 to 5 job, please don't get into marketing. Get into marketing if you really have a passion. I mean, good symptoms are, what are the books you read? Do you read autobiographies? Do you enjoy books about movies about people? That means you're naturally somebody who will be good at marketing. And another fundamental requirement getting into marketing is you need to be very strong numerically, and your analytical skills have to be exceptionally good. So if you don't have those two competencies, don't get into marketing. If you do, if you have passion for people and analytics are good, you have a future in marketing. And then the next thing I would say is, fundamentally, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was at one of my job interviews. So I finished the whole interview, and this section comes where they ask you, so any questions from us? And I said, so how does the company plan to help me pursue my progress in the organization? And this HR director looked at me and said, Imal, we are going to assign our biggest asset to you, which is our brand. You manage your brand. I think that was the most amazing advice, and I give that to everyone. It is up to you. I mean, I see these students picketing, asking not to do this, asking for this job, that job. I mean, get off it. Your job, your future is yours. It's up to you to define it, up to you to set your goals, up to you to figure out a way to get there. So if you do that, I mean, you'll enjoy life.
Right. Thank you very much for joining us. It was indeed lovely having you, and it was a very interesting and an interactive conversation we had with you.
Pleasure.
Thank you for being with us once again.
Good luck.